Hey everyone, I'm Kate Kennedy and I'm here with day 25 of 100 Days of Kane, PA. And today we are going to talk about one of Kane's music legends, also known as Kane's Music Man, Lauren Wright. He had a huge impact on the band, the orchestra, the marching band, choraleers, all of the different organized music throughout the Kane School District for many years. So here today we have Pam Wright, his daughter, who's going to share some of her stories and memories of her dad. So I'm going to go ahead and flip you around. And we're going to say hello. Hi, Pam.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here today. So we're here to talk about your dad, but before we get into stories about him, you're a Kane graduate, aren't you?
I am. I graduated in 1975, so I have a class reunion coming up next year.
Oh yeah, you do. That's exciting. Alumni weekend.
Yep.
Well, that's great. And your parents, your mom at least, was from the Kane area, but she went to a different school. Can you tell us about where she graduated from?
Sure. She graduated from the last class to graduate from Ludlow High School.
And I didn't even know Ludlow had a high school.
Yes, and the interesting thing is my grandfather, her father, graduated from the first class.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
There was the bookends there.
Right, right.
And where did your dad grow up?
He grew up in Warren, graduated from Warren High School, and then they met via friends of my grandparents, both sets of grandparents.
Oh, how nice. So they were kind of introduced by both sets of a friend of both sets of grandparents.
Yes, yes.
And where did your parents go to college?
Mom went to Indiana. It was Indiana State Teachers College at the time. Now it's IUP. Mm-hmm. And Dad went to Carthage College, which was in Carthage, Illinois, but is now in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
And he studied music?
He did. He studied music out there. Mm-hmm. And actually, he majored in organ at the time out there. But obviously, to become a music major, you have to do a lot of different, instruments and that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, organ was his main instrument that he played. Were there other instruments that he played?
He played the trumpet. I know that. Other than that, he could teach them all. And, mm-hmm. If he had to pick one up and start playing, he would. Mm-hmm.
So they met, and where did they settle? Where did they end up living at the beginning?
Well, at the time they met, my mom was teaching home economics in Sheffield. And they had a music job open, and Dad applied and got the job. Mm-hmm. And then one thing led to another, and they got married and had my two siblings when they lived in Sheffield. And then in around 1956, I think it was, they moved to Kane. Mm-hmm. And they bought a home on Tynest Avenue, and things went from there.
What brought them to Kane?
The job. Dad got the job as a music teacher, and Mom didn't teach here for the longest time, and then she eventually became home economics teacher and then a special education teacher. Mm-hmm. Here.
And your dad is remembered as having a huge impact on the music in Kane schools, not just the high school, but all of the grades. He had taught or had a hand in at one time or another, right?
Right. He started, he would teach the kids in the elementary school how to actually play an instrument. And then he was the junior high general music, and he had junior high band, had high school band, high school chorus, and he founded the choraleers, and then orchestra for the middle, junior high and senior high together.
Wow. You have to have so much knowledge, and what an impact he would have touched so many students' lives.
He did.
And you had just mentioned that he founded the Choraleers. What year was that, and what does that mean?
I believe it was 1957. We're tweaking my memory here, but and it was just a small ensemble at the time, and they, it was kind of like the cream of the crop, and mm-hmm. They would sing, and then they did the first year they did the Snow Lay on the Ground, mm-hmm. and they sang it the second year at the Christmas concert, and Dad turned around and saw all these students from the year before who had graduated out in the audience, and so he invited them up on stage to sing, and that's how the tradition of all the returning choraleer members would come back up on stage.
That's such a special tradition, and I'm sure everybody listening and watching right now, if you've been around for any of the Choir concerts, you have that chorus going through your head right now.
Well, another thing I forgot to tell you earlier was every year we would have a choir party at our house.
Oh, really?
Yes, and there at times there were like over 100 people in our house, and my parents went down in the basement one time, and the floor joist was cracked from so many people.
That's so special. That's
Yeah.
great. Was that just for current students or for
No, it was for
everybody?
Yes, and what would happen is they'd get a school bus and they'd go around. At the time there was Summit Hospital and Kane Community Hospital and the Lutheran Home, and they would go and they would sing carols, do caroling, and then they'd serenade my mom because she always stayed at home because not everybody went caroling, so some would come early. So.
That's a really special memory.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I didn't know about
Yeah,
that.
I'd forgotten about it.
And your dad also was part of a choir, right?
Oh,
Or-
he was in the Kane Men's Chorus. Yes.
And what was that?
It was a group of men who got together and they sang. It was kind of like barbershop, but it wasn't like four guys. It was a group of men, and there were various choirs in the area. I know St. Mary's had one, and they would sing. They would do programs together, and there were competitions. But
Oh,
yeah,
how fun.
Yeah.
Do you happen to remember anybody else that was in those choirs at that time?
Oh, Charlie Caldwell, Linda Carger's dad.
Oh.
He was in it. My Lord,
Yeah.
we're really testing my memory now.
Well, that makes sense.
Come on, Kate.
Linda is so into music, and that
Yes.
I didn't realize that
Yes.
her dad had done the same thing.
Yep.
So, in addition to the choraliers, he was with the bands and the orchestra. And would you share the story about the marching band's uniforms?
Sure. So, not long after he got here, and had to have been in the early 60s, the marching band had grown, and there was probably like 70, somewhere between 70 and 100 kids in the marching band. And there weren't enough uniforms. Well, there was and probably not a lot of people remember this, there was a marching band or drum and bugle corps that the fire department had. Well, they had disbanded, and so they donated their uniforms to the high school to use.
That.
Well, there weren't enough of those uniforms, and there weren't enough of the ones that they had, so Dad alternated rows of the uniforms. So one row of the fire department uniform, one row of the... Needless to say, school board relented and bought new uniforms for the next year.
I think it's a great story because it also shows just how the community does step up when there's a need, and you just figure out a way and go for it.
Yep.
That's awesome. I love that.
And I know it happened before 64 because I've seen pictures recently of the Centennial Parade, and they had on their new uniforms then. So.
They did have new uniforms for that,
Yes.
at least. Yeah. And I know what year did your dad pass away?
2002. He's been gone 17 years.
Yeah. And still he's talked about and
Oh, yeah.
remembered. But your family had done a scholarship, and there was something really special about how you raised money for that. Could you talk about that?
Sure. We had the Lauren B. Wright Showcase of Bands, and what it was a marching band show. Well, Dad had always wanted to have area high school bands come together and put on a show, and that was way before competitions that we all well know today.
And this is like the time when he was teaching.
Oh,
and all
yeah.
that.
Yes. And he wanted to do it as a way to raise funds for the music boosters. Mm-hmm. Well, none of the other band directors were even interested in this at all. So they went on and instead they started the Miss Pennsylvania concert. So when Dad passed away, we started a scholarship, and we got area bands involved, and we had it for 10 years. And we took the proceeds. Half went to the scholarship fund, half went to the music boosters. And then we had 2 scholarships a year, one to a Kane student, and then one to a student from any of the schools that participated. Now, that student had to submit an audition tape and like that.
And before the competition would take place, though, there was something that your family did as a group.
Well, the last year that we had it, my family, my siblings and their kids and their grandkids, we all went on the field, and we did the national anthem in harmony.
I think that's so amazing. And I wish I had a videotape of that, because I bet you it was so good. You're also talented.
We try.
And I bet you that would have made your dad so proud too.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did.
To see everyone together.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned the Miss Pennsylvania contest. Was your dad involved in that at all?
In the
Well, yeah, not in the competition, but in like when she came to Kane.
Yeah, he was directing the Choraleers at the time, and they would come. Miss Pennsylvania would come, and she would do her talent, and the Choraleers would perform, and it was a large fundraiser for the Music Boosters. But something else I forgot to tell you is my parents, along with a couple other people in town, formed the Miss Allegheny Highlands pageant, which was a local pageant for the Miss Pennsylvania pageant.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. Was it representing all of the different surrounding communities? Or?
It was anyone. I don't remember exactly what the criteria, but Penny, she was Penny Procious at the time, Penny Wheeler.
Oh, yeah.
She won the second year.
Did she really?
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
So
that's really cool.
I know I keep throwing all these things
I
out.
like it. I like all these new things that I didn't know about. Well, and I mean, I think everyone knows how much the community loved your parents and your dad and appreciated what he invested in the students in our community. But he also invested in the community at large, too. Could you talk about the ways that he did that?
Sure. He and my mom, although she was not she was more of a reluctant participant, but they owned several properties up here on the main street, where the Chinese restaurant is and where the salon and that, I don't know the name of that block, and I can't remember what was in there at the time, but they owned that building, the building across the street where Goodwill is, they owned that building, and then where the State Store and all those buildings in there. And they had apartments up above that my dad always said, if I won't live there, then I'm not going to have them. So they were very nice apartments. And then there were also apartments around town and houses that they owned.
Wow. I had no idea that he also invested in the businesses and the buildings here uptown and had apartments. That's so interesting.
Yeah. He was a true lover of Kane. You would have thought he was native to Kane. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were saying that where the Chinese restaurant is, he did the exterior of that.
Yeah, he did.
So it's still here today. The work that he put on the exterior of the Chinese restaurant, that black exterior, was the work of your dad.
Yeah, it was popular at the time. Might need to be restored now, but
I think it's so neat that you get to walk by and see that and remember that. So that's so special. Well, yeah, he certainly was loved and certainly made an impact. And I also know that you love Kane. So what is it that you love about Kane?
Oh, I just love how everyone knows everyone. And there's so much going on. I said, I'm a true advocate of Kane. I love how the uptown has changed and I call it Restaurant Row now, but I mean, it brings people, it's exciting to live in Kane now. It really is. I mean, I've been back 17 years since Dad passed away, and I'm involved in a lot of things, and I feel if the more you get involved in, the more you're going to plant your roots and you're going to stay.
That's right. And you remember Kane when you were a kid. What do you remember about it then?
Oh, I remember Broadbent Statler and the 3 floors and the elevator in the Broadbent Statler building. I remember how people would come up on Fraley Street on Friday night and just park their car and sit in their car and watch people drive by. Those are some real old memories.
People watching.
Yes, people watching.
Yes.
But the alma mater, I know the alma mater still to this day because of band trips. And, when you were on the bus on the way home, when you were pulling into Kane, you always sang the alma mater. And, I think that I love that tradition still exists, with I know the band still. And the kids, when they get back, they sing the alma mater, and I love that.
I love that too. There's something really, really special about that.
Yeah, I love Alumni Weekend. you get to see, and I love how we, have it all on the one weekend.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I have friends in class is 74 and the class is 76, and you get to see them when they come into town too. So
yeah, it is. It's such a great
Yep.
community, and you remember it being thriving when you were a kid, and
Yep.
it's probably exciting to see it with Restaurant Row and
Yeah.
wishing it's come back now.
Well, I know it's not all restaurants, but the one part up there is.
It really is. Yeah, up there it is.
I told Jim Graville the other day, I said, Jim, you got to put some kind of food in there.
Yes, that's so true. Well, awesome. It was so great remembering and hearing stories about your dad today. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I just come to Kane if you're not from here. Come and see what we've done, because it's a great place to visit as well as live.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your memories and for being a Kane lover and not being afraid to say it.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It was really great to remember, Kane Schools just has always valued music and art. And it was great to remember a man who had such a huge impact in that, Mr. Lauren Wright. So if you have memories of Mr. Wright, would you comment below and share your memories? Because I think he made such an impact on so many people. It would be great to see what your memories are and what your stories are. So thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you again tomorrow for day 26.